let's talk about the agenda, what we're hoping to cover today. Number one, the imperative for change, the absolutely urgency or urgent need for any organization to continue to evolve in order to survive. And the fact that in reality, only projects can create that change. We'll talk a bit about what it means for a project to succeed. We'll then talk about the importance of projects and people, the fact that projects are in fact people. Although there are things involved in projects, the real value of projects is the commitment and the skill and the dedication of the people involved. We'll then talk about what management is. We'll talk about what leadership is, and specifically what project management and project leadership are. Then we'll have a brief discussion about what it means to be a project leader and how an organization should go about acquiring project leaders. We'll then talk a bit about project governance and leadership, and then I do have a bibliography at the end of the presentation with both books and websites that I think would be very, very valuable for any and all of you. Let's begin with the need for continuous change. You've all undoubtedly seen some of these headlines scattered around the internet, where basically what people are saying is that the only way that an organization, be it a business or a government organization or even an academic institution can survive is to evolve, is to adapt to the changing environment that is impacting all of us every day. And so the adapt or die mantra has become essential for any organization. And what's interesting is that, as it says here, only 60% of the Fortune 500, only 60 of the 500 Fortune 500 companies that were on the list in 1955 remain in 2017. And what's very interesting is the very last bullet on this slide, which says that 50% of the companies that comprise the S&P 500 will be replaced, essentially will disappear over the next 10 years. The message here is clear. The life cycle of business is shortening. And the only way that you can ensure that your business is not one of those that disappears is by evolving, by changing continuously. And here's, for anyone's interested, here's a list of the 60 companies that were both on the S&P 500 in 1955 and survived through 2017. A phenomenally short list, quite honestly. Now, it is true that only projects can create change. And why is that? Well, obviously, the role of business, the function of business is to do something, do it well, do it repetitively, do it profitably, and continue to survive. That's what management is all about. The good thing is that in order to change, you have to introduce some sort of a new way of doing business. You have to introduce some sort of a new business to do, or you have to transform the business in some other way. And as it says here, the only way organizations can change, implement a strategy, innovate, or gain competitive advantage is via projects. And for those of us who are involved in project management, project leadership, that's great news because it means that we have job security as long as we want it. A second quote, which I think is very, very compelling, from CIO magazine, is highlighted in red here, which says, projects have become the essential part of any organization. By 2025, senior leaders and managers will spend at least 60% of their time selecting, prioritizing, and overseeing the execution of projects. This, in large part, is what prompted me to develop the certificate program, the two-day class in project sponsorship that is offered by Lehigh University. And the reason I say that is because unless an executive has grown up through the ranks of project management, he or she does not understand the vital role of project sponsorship. And unfortunately, all too often believes that being a project sponsor simply entails sitting through boring status meetings and signing checks, whereas in fact, the role of the project sponsor is perhaps as important as the role of the project manager / project leader. And we'll talk about that in much more detail in a little bit. Now, some of you may have heard the term Project Management 2.0. And in fact, we're going to talk a little bit about PM 2.0 here, simply because it has been introduced as a way to address two of the most significant failings, I have to use that term, of traditional project management. And those two are, number one, the fact that business value was traditionally not used as a criteria for selecting and or continuing a project. And secondly, traditional project management has become, in my opinion anyway, too focused on process, too focused on the administrative aspects of projects, and has neglected to focus and appreciate and respond to the need to treat projects as aggregates of people and to focus on the subjective human dimensions of every project. And you'll see that in a few slides. Now, there are only three reasons for undertaking a business project, undertaking and or continuing, and those are increase sales, decrease costs, or reduce risk. There is literally no other reason to undertake or continue a project. And so one takeaway is that if you are involved in a project and it is not clear to you which one or two or three of these reasons comprise the business value of your project, you should cancel that project immediately, because it is only by doing one or more of these three things that the project will add value to the organization. Now, we've seen this statistic many, many times, and there are lots of statistics out there that bemoan the traditional success rate of projects. According to PMI itself, only 38% of projects finish on time, within budget, and more importantly, only 65% meet the original goal and business intent, which is the delivery of business value for which that project was justified. Now, I'm involved with IT, have been for the better part of 40 years, and I'm embarrassed to say that IT is in far worse shape than many other, virtually all other project disciplines. I would say that construction management and, again, virtually any other project arena has a far better track record than IT. You can read some of these statistics on this slide. They're not unusual. They're egregious, to be sure, and certainly embarrassing, but we've got to do better, and something has to change. Some of you in the IT space may be familiar with the chaos report, which is published every 2 years by the Standish Group, and they have been doing this for almost 20 years now. And the sad reality is that despite the investment we have made in project management tools, project management education, and project management training, our success rate has not improved very much at all, if at all. And so again, this has been some of the impetus for the emerging of what's referred to as PM 2.0. Now, PM 2.0, in a very simplistic sense, is defined as project management 1.0, which is traditional project management, with a collaboration tool or some form of having or allowing all of the project participants to collaborate. And in fact, it's much more than that, as we'll see in a couple of slides. But from a very important point of view, there are two elements of PM 2.0 that every one of you should take away. Number one, the definition of a project is changing. It used to be that a project was simply defined as a temporary endeavor that would bring about some sort of change in an organization. The definition now is a collection of realized and sustainable business value. It's the emphasis on business value that is so very important, because in the past, we have approved and allowed to continue projects without any definable or more importantly, measurable business value. And that has got to change. And the definition of project success is changing significantly from simply completing the project within the triple constraints of scope, schedule, and cost, the infamous triangle we've all learned so very, very long. And now it's achieving the desired business value within the bounds of competing constraints.